good before they go broke. So it's big money, that's all. Right now you have the China put. Remember in the early days I talked about Hung Fat and Dr. No as the major buyers?
Yes.
Okay, that was the Middle East and China. Okay, this always ends up in the hands of government. That's when the commitment of traders, i.e. another name for the commercials, get slaughtered. It happened to them in the 70s. It will happen. Now they got China on the other side. They don't know it. Back in the 70s, first time they got killed was when de Gaulle was on their other side. And the second time they got killed was when Saudi Arabia was on them in the early and late 70s.
Well, let's talk about that for just a minute, because the commercials have an all-time record short position on gold. You're saying they're on the wrong side of this thing. They'll get overrun and they're going to get hurt.
They got a government on the other side and they haven't figured it out. You got the China put. In other words, they can't kill it. And when you can't kill it, which way does it go? In other words, something can't go down, it goes up, and if it can't go up, it goes down.
The commercials win, except when they're against the government, is the lesson here.
When they're against the sheeple, it's a pocket-picking exercise that goes on for many years. When a governments get on the other side, they haven't any capacity to stand against them because they don't have the real stuff. And the governments buy the real stuff. China's not speculating on the COMEX. China's in a cash market. When the paper market can no longer command the cash market, their game is up.
Let me switch gears here a little bit. I want to talk about the banks and ask you a question.
Sure.
Is the U.S. government encouraging accounting fraud amongst the banks? And are the banks' balance sheets, are they phony?
Because if they were told the truth, there'd be 1,000 of them that go under.
Okay.
So FASB, a group which sets accounting standards, actually created this whole rally by allowing the banks to mark up their marked down worth dash less paper and create profits in their trading department. In other words, if you mark, where would the profit come out if you marked up an inventory, meaning you valued it higher than you valued it last month? That would be a trading profit. Where did the banks make all their money to be able to show a turnaround in earnings that was the first fuel to the rally when Citibank was trading under $1? The answer was in their trading departments. So the profits that started this whole rally were profits created because the regulators of the accounting industry allowed the change, which allowed the banks again to reset whatever values they thought their inventory was worth. And these are the people who are empowered to safeguard truth and ethics in accounting. Now their conscience must be bothering the heck out of them because they're trying to reverse back to market, and the pressure being brought against them to do that is titanic. Okay, so encouraged to lie? No. Encouraged to do the necessary to save the finances of those people who run the show and make money thereby, which happens to be a lie. You got to understand, you got to look at the perspective of the other side. See, what our folks never do is put themselves in the shoes of the other person in order to know what they're doing. I'm not saying it's a right thing to do. I'm answering your question.
Right, but as they were sucking money in from the Saudis and whoever else was dumb enough to inject money into these banks at much, 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 much higher prices.
It won't happen again.
It won't happen again. The suckers aren't lined up anymore, is my point. So then the fraud continues. It's encouraged by the government. It's criminal.
Yeah, but look at the market. Somebody's lining up, aren't they?
Right.
And as long as you keep the equity market rolling, you have a chance of keeping everybody in la-la land who has any relation to that while the majority of your citizens are out of work. Does not that sound like something you're seeing happening?
Yes, it does.
There's your answer.
Okay, fair enough.
In other words, FASB has capitulated. If FASB stands tall and reinstates, and they have the power to, mark to market, okay, you'll see the equity market go into a black hole.
Right. Because
these banks will all go straight back down to where they started. These earnings are earnings created by accounting. And now think, where did the bonuses come from? Government money. Because that money was never made in the system. When you make money via an accounting change, you don't make money. If you revalue an asset, where's the cash flow coming in? It isn't. It's an accounting profit, i.e. phantom. Then you take a huge bonus on a phantom profit. And maybe you do it because you know that's the last time you're going to get a shot at it, and that's why they're so big.
So this is our version of the 1932 rally, completely phony.
This is the 32 rally.
Okay.
But we have another one on top of that, and Mark Farber very recently made a wonderful point. Maybe the market of Weimar in the equities has already started. Where I'm concerned, the equity market is a pure game of politics, and if you play it, with all these technical indicators, you're kidding yourself.
Let me ask you about silver, the silver market.
Sure.
let's say there's 1 billion ounces above ground, Jim, and we're just speculating, and it's such a tiny market, not much of any of it is for sale, right? Isn't that a market that could get extraordinarily manic on the upside?
Sure it could. And the answer is I bow to others who know silver better than I do. But the answer is yes. From a market standpoint, I've been a trader for over 50 years. The answer is sure. That thing could be explosive at any point, but it is a total manipulation. You know what the problem with silver is? It doesn't have a big enough cash market. The paper trade is where the price will be made, is made, and that's just something that you can't rail against. Well, the gold market is primarily a cash market, even though the fact of life is that the more leveraged of anything sets its price. That will reverse, and the world market for gold is infinitely larger than the COMEX.
Do people in the U.S. this time around have to worry about their gold being confiscated?
Yeah, they can worry about it, but most likely it won't happen because the end-all of making money in gold will be major financial entities who wouldn't want to reduce the market for their product should they decide to leave.
When are capital controls going to enter the scene?
They aren't. They went out with Bretton Woods. So the return to capital controls is a return to most of the tenets of Bretton Woods, and therefore most unlikely.
For the people who stay here in the United States, are they in danger of losing their republic, or do you feel like it's gone already?
That's already done. Okay, you stay here, you play the game that's here. You rail against it, you're going to only buy yourself problems. You go sequestrate your money, and that somebody in the back office of a Swiss bank sells the secrets.
With regards to gold shares, what percentage should people allocate to physical metal?
33 1/3% of your liquid net worth. Okay, liquid net worth, meaning things you could really sell and turned into cash, 1/3 of that, and you bought yourself insurance on the whole.
And what about on gold mining share side?
Very selectively, okay? You have to know what you're doing. Most usually a liar standing on top of a hole. The only question is whether there's a hole. And, it has to do with property, it has to do with people, it has to do with finances. And in that sense, yeah, there'll be much more leverage, and it's starting to be realized now as even you can see people talking publicly amongst the makers of opinion saying that for the first time that gold shares should move 3 times gold because they do maintain and contain this leverage. But it's highly selective. And, that the people who have actually made most of the mineral businesses, those institutions, have totally abandoned it, and they're making money by destruction, not by construction. They've been trying to suck the juniors dry of capital for the last 5 years.
We talked, obviously, before the interview, and we've talked other times, but you mentioned something to me that was interesting, which is going back to the United States history. It was go west, young man. Going forward, as we have this hyperinflation, as we have this collapse in this police state in the United States, the children of this generation may end up going to foreign countries.
Learn Mandarin so you can talk to your boss. You follow this currency strength. Opportunity always lies with currency strength. Wherever that is where you want to be centered if, in fact, your interest in life and happiness comes out of commercial success. Otherwise, as we did learn how to surf and get a taste for the finest of beers, like music, go to a beach and enjoy the rest of your life.
Jim Sinclair, jsmindset.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, and I hope we've been of some service to the listeners. Thank them very much for listening.
Thank you for joining us at KingWorldNews.com. Remember to tune in next week where we will have Jim Rogers and Luis Yamada. Also remember to go to our Gold Plus page for exclusive weekly interviews with Ted Butler and Gatta, and we will continue the 4-part Systemic Failure series with Jim Willey of the Hat Trick Letter.